Hello, everyone. My name is Pete, and this is Fun Tips podcast. Thanks for coming and welcome because today we have our first special guest. Her name is Mikaela Caron. Mikaela Caron, well, is she's really active in the community of iOS. Maybe you know her already. She is creating content on YouTube, creating articles. She is doing podcasts with Paul Hudson. Um, she's also one of the main hosts in a community called iOS Dev Happy Hour, etc., etc. Also, she has been contributing in hackathons like Hacktober, etc. So I think you will learn a lot from her. And in this episode, we'll talk about that. How is creating content on those platforms and how she's driving her life with that. So I hope you enjoy this conversation. Let's get started. Michaela, hi.
Hey
Welcome to the
Pit,
show.
how's it going? Thank you for having me as like the very first guest that you're having on the podcast.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's a pleasure to talk to you today. I think I feel as I was talking to you in backstage, I feel that I know you from long time ago, but in reality, this will be like our first conversation, like two humans, you know. At least
Yeah.
I hope this will be in real life, but I mean, it's something. So, welcome to the show. How are you?
Yeah, thank you. I'm doing good. It's now super cold outside all of a sudden. Like the entire country decided to be
I
like,
know.
actually, now is winter. So it's like
Yeah.
-5 Fahrenheit outside. I looked it up. It was like what, -15 Celsius, I think, is what that is.
Really? Or you're just? Oh, this is just a
Or
joke.
yeah, yeah. Wait, no, hang on. Oh my gosh. It's I'm so bad at temperature. It's I know what is it? Paul Hudson always calls them freedom degrees. So it's -5 Fahrenheit. And then I thought it was like -15 Celsius, or it was
Negative
like maybe a
five.
little worse. Yeah, it's really cold outside.
Wow. Where are you located right now? North
So
Pole?
I'm in Indiana right now.
Okay, okay, Indiana. Wow, 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 wow. I mean, I was just complaining for 4 Celsius degrees. So no, it's too hot. Okay, wow. I'm glad that you put in perspective my life. So I will not complain anymore about the weather. All right.
Yeah, it's cold.
Okay. So Michaela, for those people, I wanted to introduce you, but I think you will do it better for me. For those people that don't know you yet, would you introduce you?
Yeah, so for hey everybody, how's it going? My name is Mikaela Caron, and I am an iOS developer that I've now gone fully like independent iOS development, as in like I am trying to make my own apps and hoping that they make money that I can actually live off of. So I'm doing that. Currently, I'm at literal like zero right now, so I make no money. But it's I also do some like freelancing on the side, so it's like I'm not making zero money at all, but it's my goal is to make enough money to live off of. Here, hang on. My goal is to make enough money to live off of like from my own apps themselves. So
Right.
that's like what I'm gonna be doing in the future and everything. But wanna should we go into like some more background about me as well?
Um, I actually would like to know something about you.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, um, you are really active in the iOS community, sharing content, doing podcasts, even hosting an iOS dev community that we'll talk in a bit. Um, but I would like just to start with this question: how do you start in iOS? Because for most people, like me, for example, it's like okay, you started with something, right? With web, mostly with web or Java. Ugh, Java. Sorry. Uh, but then something happened, and then now we are in iOS. What happened to you? How did you start? And why did you decided to join to Steve Jobs, community?
Yeah, so let's see. How did I start? It's in when I was When I was in college, I studied like manufacturing kind of, so it's kind of like a mix of mechanical and electrical engineering like put
Mhm,
together. But then I also got a minor in computer information technology, so that's like a little bit of programming. So while in college,
mhm,
I did a little bit of Java, did a little bit of C sharp. So my first job like out of college was within like the manufacturing industry. And so I did that for like about 2.5 years before I ended up going into like software engineering and deciding like I want to do iOS development. So I kind of decided that like this is what I actually want to do and what I like want to move my career to. And I chose iOS because I've previously done web, and I'm sorry to all the web developers, but it is not my favorite. So I was like, okay, don't want to do web. But I really liked iPhones. So I always had like an iPhone since the iPhone 4S. So I upgraded every 2 years. So I had the 4S, the 5S, the 6S, the 10S, and then they stopped doing that. So then
Oh,
then I got the 14. So it's I've always had an iPhone and I've never actually had an Android phone. So it only made sense that I was like, okay, I'm just gonna do iOS development because it doesn't make sense to do Android.
mhm.
So that's how I like kind of decided to get like into iOS development. And then I ended up like really liking the programming language Swift. I think it's really similar to C sharp, which is what I used to do, but I haven't like looked at that in forever now. So it's I've been in like Swift macOS world for like the last several years.
Wow. I again highlight a few things that you said. One is that I have a lot of mechanical engineer friends that become developers, and I, it's it's amazing how yeah, I think most of my contacts, to be honest, some of the greatest people that I know that are really great engineers are coming from that background. I don't know what you show there, but it's amazing, and I'm glad that you are one of those. So amazing. And second is that you started with C sharp. I started too with C
Mhm.
sharp. So it's like, okay, we have something in common. Maybe that's the path to become an iOS developer. Who knows?
I did some C sharp, but I've also I think what was it? The first language I think I ever did was C or it was Python. So like I've done
Python.
a little bit of those as well, but yeah, it's I did like a very like out of all of the programming language that I've used, it's I've done C sharp and SQL as like probably the top two before I ended
Hmm.
up doing Swift.
Okay, nice. So I'm assuming, and when did you start it exactly with iOS?
I started learning. It's really funny. So I can
Hmm.
tell you when I started learning iOS development.
Okay.
I started learning on January 1st, 2019, because it was my New Year's resolution to learn
Wow.
iOS development. So I can tell you the exact day that I was like, this is the time that I want to become an iOS developer.
Wow. I don't know everyone, but I was also talking to you backstage that I feel that you have been here for more time than that. I don't know. It's like you are everywhere. So I feel that maybe you are starting since, I don't know, 2014, 15 or so. But no, you basically started the same year of Swift UI.
I did. It was funny. I remember I had watched, I want to say the keynotes, like the WWDC keynotes. It's kind of funny. Like, really, your everyday people kind of don't know about them. Like, they don't even know that it exists because, it's the Worldwide Developer Conference. So I
Yeah.
didn't actually watch those until maybe 2017 or 18, I think. I'd have to like rewatch the videos to like see if I remember seeing it.
Hmm.
But I had watched some of the like main keynotes of like I remember when the iPad was announced like in 2010. And I as a
Yeah.
good Apple developer, that like year is stuck in my head and I know exactly when that was. But it's like I remember when that happened. Um, and I like watched a couple of the keynotes, but then yeah, it's I didn't actually get into iOS dev, and I remember watching the keynote for Swift UI. But it was funny because I was brand new. I didn't know it was like a big thing. I was like,
Mhm.
oh, that's cool, not
Mhm.
like mind blowing. Oh wow, this is like gonna change the world of iOS development. I didn't know that. I was just like, oh, that's kind of cool. And so when I started learning iOS development, yeah, it was like 6 months in. Like Swift UI is announced. I remember a couple friends here and there learning Swift UI, but because I had started like 6 months prior, I kept going with UIKit and I kept on learning that. And I didn't actually get into Swift UI until 2021
Okay.
because at my job I was able to take Sean Allen's course and actually go through and learn
Mm.
Swift UI, which
Hmm.
was kind of a good point because I remember, yeah, my friend who was learning Swift UI in 2018, it was still very new.
Hmm.
So it's when you're new in like learning something and you're trying to learn like a brand new technology like that, it's you don't know if you're hitting bugs or if you're just doing something wrong.
Hmm.
So he had a lot of issues doing that. So I was kind of just like, oh, it seems cool, but I'm gonna just not learn Swift UI for right now. And so I didn't end up learning it until like 2 years later.
That's a great strategy. I think some people that just started with uh, a, a language or a technology in general, they wanted to just go to the latest, but sometimes the latest is not mature enough to be handled in production or so, and there are not uh, enough information with in Stack Overflow and other forums that can help you or save your life, because sometimes you got an Xcode issue or so, and you don't even know how to solve that, and you're thinking maybe it's just in my local machine the issue. But no, guess what, I mean, there's even an issue that Apple hasn't even resolved yet. So and but you don't have the experience. So yeah, I think what I got from you is that you took the right way. So like first learning the mature technology like UI kit, and then
Hmm.
starting moving to iOS. I did it wrong actually when I saw Swift UI, and in a project we started with Swift UI 1.0, and that was a
Oh
nightmare.
wow.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That was
Uh,
a nightmare.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Just
That's the
because
summary.
just because the way we expect updates in the view was terrible, and we always having issues like inconsistency. Well, anyway, that's a topic that we can talk later. uh, but yeah, definitely, I really like the way you approach. It's maybe a tip for anyone else that is in your uh, position. Nice. So Michaela, I know you have a lot of projects around. You have been in,
Yes, I do.
really active, really, really active. I like that. But let's get started with content creation. You have a YouTube channel. I don't know if you have other platforms. If you're doing podcasts, oh no, yeah, you're doing podcasts, of course. But I don't know. When do you started making content creation, and what do you think about this journey?
Yeah. Yeah, so I started with content creation with Instagram actually,
Hmm.
because with me learning like iOS development, I wanted to keep myself accountable. So I started like January 1st of 2019. Like if you decide to ever scroll all the way back on my Instagram, you will see that first post, and it's literally me saying, I want to learn iOS development, like classic New Year's resolution, I want to eat healthier and like work out or something. But
Yeah.
iOS development was like the one thing that ended up happening out of all of those.
Okay.
But
Nice.
so yeah, it's I started on Instagram and I posted every single day for like 100 days. I think I called it like 100 days of hustle or something like that,
Nice.
because 100 days of code was like you have to always like code 1 hour like not following a tutorial. And I think that does make sense as like a framework to follow, and I think that's really good. But what I wanted to do was like hustle, as in like it's okay if I watch a tutorial and that's like my one thing that I did for that day.
Hmm.
So I kind of just called it 100 days of hustling towards some kind of goal.
Hmm.
So it's for 100 days I posted on Instagram like my progress learning. So you literally see it's so adorable looking back, and that's what I kind of like about content creation is you see my very first post when I'm like opening Xcode, what is it, like 11 or 12 or something for the first time, and like
Hmm.
making a button do something on the screen, and like seeing the very first like tutorials that I went through. So it's like posted all of that on Instagram, and then later started posting on Twitter, or formerly known as Twitter now.
Yeah,
uh,
I know.
and
Well,
I
we
did
got.
that.
Yeah,
And yeah, so I started posting on Twitter because at the time Sean Allen also had a podcast. I think it was called like iOS Dev, what was it called, iOS Dev something. I can't remember
yeah.
what
Hmm.
it was, but yeah, it was like iOS development something, and he was like really big into posting on Twitter. So I was like, okay, I'll try that. So I ended up like making a Twitter account or using like my old one that I used to have, and started posting there, just talking about what I was learning. Oh, excuse me, I have to cough.
It's okay.
So I started I started then getting on Twitter, like talk about what I was learning because this was actually before Paul Hetson made his like 100 Days of Swift and 100 Days of Swift UI.
Hmm.
It was like sort of right before then. So I was still posting more about like what I was learning and just talking with other people. So I had Instagram and Twitter, and those have been like my big ones. And then later grew into me wanting to make a YouTube channel. And I actually had somebody, which was kind of interesting. Somebody actually reached out to me and said that, like, hey, I have this YouTube channel that's like Swift and iOS developers, but he wasn't really able to use it anymore. As in, like, he knew he was about to be really busy, and he wasn't really going to dedicate any time to it. So he was giving me his YouTube channel. So when I
Oh,
started my YouTube channel, I didn't start at 0 subscribers. I started at like 4,000 because he
wow.
transferred his channel over to me. So I didn't start like completely at 0, but that was super nice of him. His name is Christian Wells. He, yeah,
Mm.
just gave me his YouTube channel, took all the videos off. I was able to like rebrand the whole thing, but it allowed me to kind of start at a higher subscriber level uh,
That's
just
pretty
by doing that.
amazing. I
Yeah, so
mean,
that was super generous of him. And
yeah.
that all kind of came from me end up like posting in like a bunch of different forums, and
Mhm.
just like he ended up seeking me out for that, and he was just like, I love what you're doing with the Swift community and everything. So he ended up gifting me his channel, which was super nice of him. And so yeah, it's like YouTube kind of started off then not at 0. I had Instagram, then now we have the Threads as another social media, and that came from like it based off of Instagram. So when I
Mhm.
started at Threads, within 1 week, I had like 2,000 followers or so
Wow. Are
because they all came from Instagram.
okay. Are you still using threads? I mean, I
I
use it
am.
for
I
two
kind of
days, but
like it.
really.
Yeah, I like it. Because I think the secret and the reason I like it kind of maybe more than other people as well, because I've heard there's a lot of kind of spam on it too, just because it's a new social media. Everybody's
Mhm.
kind of flocking to it, and they have
Yeah.
to figure out like how to properly handle spam. But I think the reason I like it is because I already used Instagram for iOS development. So Instagram was able to take that whole algorithm, whatever they have, when they moved it onto Threads. I was already getting content specifically like what I was already doing, which was like iOS development, UI, UX kind of stuff, like
Mhm.
content creation things. So like it already knew that that's what I was looking for. So I think my algorithm is already better than other people's who are like starting from 0 or starting from their personal Instagram that they had to move into Threads,
Mhm.
and they're just looking at, cat videos or whatever else people like,
Yeah.
regular people really use social media for, not for like professional things. So
Mhm.
because of that though, I think that's why I actually really like Threads for that reason. It's just I think my algorithm is honestly better than other people's right
I,
now.
yeah, I think because you have an advantage over others that are just starting, right? I try to use it, but to be honest, um, and I know I used to work at Meta, but I don't use many of the tools of the technologies. I think just WhatsApp is my favorite because my mom and everyone else is there. And but okay, that's pretty interesting. And I don't know there if there is a huge community like Instagram or so, or if you have seen a decreasing because from my perspective or for what I'm hearing is like uh, when they launch it, everyone was there, and then 2 weeks
And then
later,
everyone died.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So I don't know if because I don't know. I also wanted to explore other alternatives to X because X is
Mhm.
there, but I don't know if Elon Musk tomorrow will say, "Hey, let's change everything," and you know messing things up. So I'm also in Mastodon, for example, but Mastodon
Mhm.
is pretty slow in terms of growing. So I have more
I
than
don't know. I see a lot of mass. So I have too many social medias. Is
Mhm.
basically the answer to
Okay.
my content creation. Is I'm on my phone all the time.
Okay,
But
good plan.
yeah, within Mastodon, because I took the hard path of making my own Mastodon instance and like spinning up a whole server for that. So like I
Okay.
own my own domain for that. I would recommend not doing that. It like was awful, and I kind of hated it, but I did do it.
Okay.
But um, on Mastodon, there's a space called iosdev.space. Like that's the URL. One of my friends, Jay, he runs that,
Mhm.
and that is literally a server that's all for iOS developers. So instead of joining like mastodon.social, which has like everybody pretty much, you can join iosdev.space, and literally your entire feed is just iOS developers. So
I'm there.
yeah, I
De
would
hecho,
recommend joining that one.
actually.
I find it, I really like that one. And I'll look at that like through the Ice Cube's client.
Mm.
Excuse me, through the Ice Cube's client, look through that, and like you can see different timelines. But I think that's a really good space, and there's a good amount of people, but it is one of those like Mastodon is still. I have less followers on Mastodon than I do now on Threads, and
Mhm.
Threads is newer. So it's like over the course of a year, I've had like 1,500 almost, and then on Threads I'm now at like almost 3,000. I just look at these numbers randomly, so that's
Yeah.
why I know them off the top of my head. They're vanity numbers. I'm not like trying to say, oh look, I have all these followers, but like as a, I do look at these numbers because sometimes it's, I do try to like monetize my different social
Yeah,
medias here and
of
there,
course.
and so you kind of have to know some of these numbers. But yeah, it's because Threads has more people on it now than Mastodon does in like a way shorter amount of time. It's
Hmm.
kind of skewed for me because it came from my Instagram, and Instagram is where I have the most followers out of all the different platforms. But I don't know. It's like kind of like all of them. They all have their own little vibe going on.
Yeah.
So like Threads is all the new kid on the block, and like everyone's trying to figure out how to use it. But it's kind of funny. Something like takes over, and you'll see the same post like over and over and over.
Hmm.
So when people figured out they could long press on the share button in Threads as opposed to just like tapping on it, it was like posted the entire day from everybody copying and pasting the same thing, saying look what you can do, you can long press the share button. So
Oh.
it's like that's kind of stuff you see on Threads, but then like Mastodon is chronological, so you kind of don't see that as much. But then I end up seeing the same people posting because they happen to be on social media the same time I'm on social media, which is
Okay.
why then people like Twitter and X of it has an algorithm then, so you can not see the exact same thing over and over. Like that's kind of the point of making an algorithm. But then depends on if you like their algorithm.
Okay.
I don't know. It's social media is kind of weird. But it's, I now have like a core group of people I kind of follow through the internet basically. So I end up seeing and like talking to the same people kind of anyways too. So it's not like when I go to some new social media, like I made a TikTok, not that I actually like use it yet because I really almost cannot handle any more social media. That would be like 6 or 7 or something, and then like
Yeah.
cross
Wow.
posting to everything, it becomes like too much. So I typically like cross post from like Twitter to Mastodon using Buffer, and then I'll copy and paste that to Threads because they don't have a an API yet, and then sometimes I'll post to Blue Sky, but then that like I think also doesn't have an API, or
Hmm.
they do, but it's not like ready yet or something. So yeah, it's, I like sometimes cross post here and there, but it kind of depends on how like lazy I'm feeling or how important the thing is that I'm posting. Just because like it's so much work to post like everywhere, so I kind of end up staying right now between like Twitter, Threads, and Mastodon is like the main ones that I sort of cycle through to actually see news,
Hmm.
and then Instagram is the one that I generally like share. It's kind of funny, tech Instagram is like sharing pictures of your desk setup, and that's like the whole thing. Everybody just shows their desk because it's all about pictures. So it's like,
Yeah.
what do I do every day? I sit at my desk, so here is a picture of my desk. Yeah, every single angle, you could probably recreate it in a 3D space because of how many pictures there are. but
You have infinite number
but
of angles of your desk.
yeah,
So
basically. It's
nice.
like look at all the desk, look at how I set up my desk like over and over, and then yeah,
I,
that's all of my rant to social media.
I like your deck setup, by the way. It's pretty
Thank
clean.
you.
So
That's when it's clean.
yeah, all the time, because the picture is important.
Yep.
So uh, and you mentioned a few things. For example, it's hard to maintain, I don't know, 6 7 social media at a time. But what we think is the most complicated thing for a content creator, um, in your opinion?
Ooh, the most complicated thing for a content creator. I think it kind of depends on what you want to do out of content creation. So, kind of low key, the first thing I wanted when I started posting videos after a while was I just want people to send me things for free that I can show on my social media. Like, I just wanted to get all the cool tech all those
Okay.
content creators get so that they can unbox something, but they get it for free. Like,
Hmm.
that's kind of what I wanted out of it. Um, and I did get that with a couple things here and there, and then now like I've figured out how you actually do all of that. So what I wanted at first was kind of just I just want people to send me things for free. That sounds great. Um, so that's
Okay.
sort of what I did with content creation. So like I started it with like documenting things and doing that like you kind of start to build a following and talking to people in that way, but I'm somewhat redirecting some of my content now of more about like teaching things too because now I have more of a following and I can sort of like do different things like now that I have a bigger audience sort of rather than just people following because for a long time it was people following my journey of learning iOS development. So I'd have
Mhm.
other people who know more than I do and they would like give me tips here and there on stuff. But then now it's more of like people see me as somebody who does know things. Like yes, we're all continuing to learn stuff, but it's kind of a different sort of atmosphere of now I can teach people different things. So then that changes of what kind of content do I want to make so
Mhm.
then I could make more tutorial style content or like share different tips like Swift that you have
Mhm.
because all of your tips are great as well. And it's kind of just like changing how you want to make content. So like just sharing what you're learning for me is really easy because it's just like here's a picture,
Okay.
this is what I did today, and then that's like kind of simple. So then if you want to change what kind of content you make of teaching people things, now that means you have to come up with ideas. Now that means you have to possibly script something and film
Mhm.
something. And that's like a whole different process and harder, I think, than just showing people what I'm currently working on.
Okay. That's a that's clever. That's a good difference between making like I mean sharing your thoughts versus making some production in the way you will share content. So
Hmm.
and I think you're loving what you're doing, right? So just sharing what is in your task literally and not literally, and and maybe someone else will share something from what you are doing today. So
Hmm.
that's amazing. So if you have something if you could share something for anyone that wanted to share content on YouTube to teach somebody to learn anything related to a language, iOS, or anything else, uh, what would you recommend for them?
Definitely. Definitely don't worry about like followers or kind of like comments what people say like listen to the uplifting ones because like those are great and there are people out there that do want to support you,
Hmm.
but don't listen to like the crap comments that are just on social
Mm.
media because there's a lot of them for one, so just hit block, like don't even think about it because there it's kind of wild just how people waste their time on social media and just want to put others down. It's
Yeah.
like you don't need that kind of mental capacity to think about, oh, what did that person say that thing about me? Because
Hmm.
I had back when Instagram Reels came out, I had one reel that like went viral as an viral within like the tech community, which is kind of funny.
Hmm.
But it's literally a video. It's a time lapse of me sitting at my computer following a Sean Allen tutorial, and I was the like part of the tutorial I was following was just building a struct. So you know, you're watching the tutorial,
Hmm.
typing along, writing struct like person, filling out all the different properties. It's like a 5-second video or so, but it's just a tutorial and following like what that is.
Hmm.
The first comments were really good because it was the people who I like know and talk to on social media because that's
Hmm.
the first people who follow you or first people who see your post. So it was like some people are like, "Oh, that's cool. I love that tutorial. Like Sean Allen's great." Those were like the first comments. And then when it went viral, it got opened up to the broader spectrum of tech bros that are on social media.
Yeah.
One person commented, "Why are you using a Mac for development? That's stupid." And I was like, "You need a Mac for iOS development." And they commented back, "Oh, okay, I'm sorry." And then I had other comments like, "You're just following a tutorial. That's not how you do it." And I'm like, "That's exactly how it works." So like those kind
Ah,
of like kind of comments, it's just like don't even think about them because they're just people, either trolls just I don't know wanting to
yeah.
get a reaction out of people, or it's just like people who don't understand what you're doing or they don't care, and it doesn't matter to think about those because like they make no sense and they have no context. So like
Hmm.
it's somebody watching a video of me sitting at my desk following a tutorial and typing along, and somebody has to comment, "Why are you using a Mac?" And it's just like you don't even know my profile then because I do iOS development and you need a Mac. That's literally how it kind of works. So it's just like don't think about comments for people because it's kind of like comments are dumb.
Step number one, I mean, you need to have a Mac to do Mac
Yeah.
things, to do iOS,
Yeah. Yeah, so it's I just don't even think about those comments, and if you're starting, don't even think about those kind of comments either. Like people will correct you here and there if you're like doing something, or they'll give you better ideas of stuff. Like people can give you like constructive criticism on the internet, but a lot of them don't. Like I will get emails or like DMs basically that says, "Hello sir, can you teach me programming?" And I'm like, okay, you haven't read
Wow.
my profile at all then, because you can clearly see, even though it's a unicorn as the profile picture, if you click on my profile before you DM me, you could see that I'm not a sir.
Yeah, I'm receiving. I'm a sorry, but I'm receiving those kind of comments too. I mean DMs like, "Hey, can you teach me? Oh, what is the problem in this code?" And it's like,
Mm-hmm.
what the hell, my friend? I don't have an idea. I have a life. I will not stay with you. I'm
Mm-hmm.
sorry if someone is just feeling hard with that, but yeah, I mean, I you should respect the time of others, right? Or if you have something specific, I can answer. But if you just come with
Mm-hmm.
the question, "Hey, could you solve my homework because it's for in 5 minutes?" Come on, I mean, it's like,
Yep.
okay, no answer. Of course, I yeah, in my case I try to be polite, but sometimes it's like, or I mean, first question is, did you try to Google it or so? Most people don't even try that. So, and I don't even know if it's a legit question or in fact it's someone that is just trying to trolling me, or
Mm-hmm.
so, I don't know. But it's like, what a waste of time, talking to me in that
Yeah,
way.
so you can also get DMs that just say hi and nothing else. And it's kind of like, I think there's a website, I can't remember what it's called, but it's like some website of like don't send me hi or something like that, where like if somebody DMs hi, you send them back this website, and the whole website explains why you don't DM somebody
Hmm.
the word hi.
Yeah.
But I have like a canned response to that. So if somebody sends me hi, I have like a saved response that like sends back, "Hi, my name is Mikaela. I know about iOS dev and freelance. If you want to ask me a specific question, go ahead, but don't send me hi." So if
Wow.
somebody does send me something, I respond to it because I don't know. Sometimes people do have good questions. They just don't know how to ask them.
Exactly.
But if somebody like, I mean, people throw them out here and there, which is totally fine because it's legitimate. If you get like lots of DMs, that's fine. But I do respond to some of them with the canned response that just says that. And if somebody asks me a good question after that, I'll answer. But otherwise, like, I kind of don't.
Yeah, I think I will say that there are some legit questions there, but there are people like that are too shy, or they don't want to expose their question because they think they are dumb questions, and they
Hmm.
DM you directly. But I think it's like sometimes is there are great questions, and I recommend the people to say, could you post this directly in your profile and linking, or Twitter? I mean, if I can reply there, or and where anyone else can reply if I'm wrong, that will be great because any others will learn from your question and the answers, instead of just
Hmm.
keeping that knowledge in just a one-on-one conversation. It's a thing I recommend, but I know it's hard, and I need and I'm really I share the same like you. So you should do your stuff. You just need to be constant and forgetting about the comments. I will say
Hmm.
good or bad, good comments or bad comments. I mean, take the good ones, but don't. Sometimes we are expecting always good comments, and if we don't get them, we got depressed, or we said maybe this is not right. So it's better to keep moving and just
Hmm.
grab what you need. But yeah, definitely, this is something that any content creator is handling, I guess.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
they can get you down here and there. Depends on
Hmm.
what they are, but like there's way more people out there who are like supporting you for what you're doing versus people trying to bring you down. Because I think there's a quote somewhere that says like if you have a problem with me, text me.
Hmm.
If you don't have my number, you don't know me well enough to have a problem with me. It's something like that. So
Yeah.
it's like don't think about people who just like post hater comments because like they just don't matter. Like I've actually I start gathering comments that are like some person who thanks me for something or something where I helped them. They're like, "Wow, your tutorial was great. I loved it." I just screenshot it and put it in an album on my phone. So if I'm feeling sad that day, I can just like look at all these
Wow.
comments from people
That's
who
cool.
like enjoyed what I posted. So then like it's uplifting.
Yeah. When you receive something like that, yeah, it's like, I mean, maybe I have a crappy day, but I saw a message like, "Hey, you're doing great." It's like, okay, that's why I'm here. That's why I'm doing
Mhm.
this, and
Yeah.
I'm helping others. So yeah, that's pretty cool. That I'm talking to you, and also I'm hearing a lot of things that happen to me too. So yeah, great. Thanks for sharing all of that. So speaking of community, because our community is awesome. I know you are also our co-host of um, a really great community for iOS, which is called iOS Dev Happy Hour.
Mhm.
Uh, could you talk to us about what is that? What is the purpose of that community?
Yeah, so iOS Dev Happy Hour was kind of born out of the pandemic. It started with a guy named Alan Weary. He
Mm-hmm.
just posted on Twitter saying, like, hey, would anybody be up for a Zoom call to talk about just iOS development?
Mm-hmm.
I remember seeing that tweet, and then it was funny. I remember sleeping through the first meeting because I like fell asleep right before the meeting was gonna happen, so I like took a nap, so I missed the first one. But
Oh.
everybody was saying how fun it was, so it was at first just a meeting to come and like chat with other iOS developers. So then I made it to the second one, and then all the ones after that for like a whole year. But iOS Dev Happy Hour is all about like just getting iOS developers together to like talk about stuff because originally born out of the pandemic, it's everybody wasn't seeing anybody as much, so it was kind of just like that outlet to go talk to other people. Because like for me too, I live in Indiana. There's not, or I haven't met many iOS developers like in this area, so I don't really have somebody who I can complain to about Swift UI versus UI kit. Like nobody kind of gets it. They're just like,
Yeah.
I don't know what you're talking about. So when we had iOS Dev Happy Hour, you actually have people you can talk to about like in technical terms about different things. So then now it's kind of just a meeting that has continued to go on and like meet other people. But then also now we share stories about how people got their first job in iOS development, and that was one of the things that also started from the beginning too. But we'll have people share who just got their very first iOS developer job, and
Mhm.
so you can listen like how people got into iOS development, how they learned it, and then how they ended up getting their very first job, which is so inspiring because a lot of the people that come into are not from like a traditional CS background too. So
Mhm.
it's a lot of people who learned iOS development, and you can really see when you're learning like it is possible to get into tech without a degree and without like any prior knowledge. Like it is totally possible. It's hard, but it is totally possible. And being able to see that is just very fun and uplifting. And actually being at a meetup where you get to talk to other people too. So it's kind of, you're not only listening to presentations, but we then do breakout rooms and you actually get to chat with other people.
Mhm.
You sometimes then get to also chat with like the person who was like up talking, end up following them on social media, and then like seeing all sorts of different things that happen. So it's like a monthly meetup that we now do of like talking to other iOS devs, getting to see how others got their first jobs, and then sometimes we'll end up showing like indie apps. So any kind of apps people are working on here and there was something new we did last meeting. But yeah, it's really just an online meetup to chat with other iOS developers.
Nice. I I've been there for a few of the sessions. Unfortunately, in Saturdays is my time to work in my content. That's why
Mm-hmm.
I can't join frequently. But I really
Mm-hmm.
love to see a lot of people, a lot of smart people that wanted to become great in that technology, and it's like a free spot to share ideas or learn from people that are just starting versus people that have years of experience, or even there are like um, pillars of the community like Paul Hudson and even
Mm-hmm.
Ray Wenderlich. Yeah, I saw
Yeah.
I saw him in my first se- um, event, and was like, wow, Ray Wenderlich is here. They're amazing.
Yeah, you're like, oh my gosh, this is an actual person. Like we get
Yeah,
to
yeah,
like
yeah.
actually
It's
see
not a
who
website.
Ray Wenderlich is.
Yeah. Well, and you are in that community. You are host, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So,
so I started out as an attendee, and then I became one of the hosts after about a year or so, I want to say.
mhm. And how hard is to manage a community like that?
It's not too bad for us because we only have meetings monthly, and
Hmm.
then now there's oh, how many of us? There's several hosts, so it's not just me. It's
Okay.
me, Alex Silver, Chris Wu, Adrian Eves, Frank Foster. Oh my gosh, what if I forgot somebody? I think that's it. Um, so that's all. Yeah. Oh my gosh, I want to check because I'm gonna be like, if I left one person
Yeah, yeah,
out, I'm gonna
yeah.
be like,
This will
oh
appear
my
in your
gosh,
social media for sure. Just
like
kidding.
oh no, I forgot one person. Okay, no, that's it. I was like,
Okay.
no, I'm not forgetting somebody. But yeah, so there's five of us all managing this meeting, so it's not too bad. Plus, it's when one of us like has to step out for something or they're really busy and they don't have like the time for that month.
Hmm.
Um, we all like pick up the slack here and there, and it's not too much to manage because of we've kept a lot of the same format that we've had lately.
Hmm.
So because of that, it's I've made everybody use Notion because I love Notion to take notes and everything.
Yeah.
So it's like we have official docs too of like how the meetings work when we're scheduling them, like that whole thing. So like everything we do, it's I'm like made the Slack emoji of like Notion intensifies. So anytime somebody mentions something and like we need to record it down, I'll
Okay.
respond with that Slack emoji of like Notion intensifies, meaning like write it down in Notion for us so that we have it to go back later.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, because we've like now written docs on like how the meetings work, and there's like five of us for this whole meetup, it's really not too bad. The biggest thing that we have to organize is, and because it's virtual too, so it's all like over Zoom. You don't have any kind of event space. So like the biggest thing we have to organize then is for the past 2 years we have had an event at
Yeah.
WWDC live in California. And so that takes significantly more logistics to actually
Hmm.
do rather than online monthly meetups because online it's kind of like you just make a Zoom meeting and like tell people about it. But in person you have to manage food or venue
Yeah.
or like events, and so
Hmm.
that takes like a lot longer. Um, but overall, like month to month, discounting WWDC, it's not too bad.
Okay. Yeah, I remember to be there in Top 22. Uh, it was pretty good to see everyone in real life. And yeah, for sure, yeah, managing a real life event is way harder, because all the food and all the things that you need to drive. But I
Hmm.
actually have a question because when when I joined, I will talk about the real event, but I'm talking in general about the Zoom meetings. Um, when I joined, I remember, to not knowing everyone, and it was like, okay, let's make good friends here. But I mean, to be honest, I was like a little bit nervous because it's like, I mean, a
It's a
lot
big
of,
meeting.
yeah, yeah, it's a big meeting, and also because I know a lot of people in social media that I'm here that are really really active in the community, and then you are seeing them in real life. And for some people could be, if especially if we are introverts like me,
Hmm.
it's hard, to start a conversation. I mean, what do you recommend if someone is hearing right now, and um, they want to join to these events, kind of events? What do you recommend, how to start making friends or collaborate together?
Hmm. I think it's totally fine to join a meeting and kind of just lurk, basically,
Mhm.
because it's, yeah, every month we have at least like 100 people that join. So it's like 100 people are on this Zoom call.
Yeah.
Um, so I am extroverted, so for me, it's not as scary. Plus, I've done like conference talks and all sorts of stuff. So, like, it's not as scary to me, but what I recommend though to other people, because it's like just not my personal experience, but
Yeah.
like what I recommend to other people though, and what I've seen is it's totally fine to kind of just join the meeting and not say anything.
Hmm.
Or like once you get into a breakout room, because we do have you like sort of choose breakout rooms, sometimes by topic or sometimes it's random. And so I think it's like totally fine to just be in the meeting and not participate yet, just because you're nervous and you don't want to yet.
Hmm.
Just nervous what to say, nervous like who to talk to. Um, Sometimes like breakout rooms will like everybody will go around and intro themselves. It kind of depends because that like actually takes a really long time when you have like 10 people in a room.
Yeah.
But it's kind of like you can just lurk and like just be there, either have your camera on or off. That's totally fine. When you just have your camera off, you can just kind of be in the meeting and be there, but like you don't feel like saying anything yet.
Hmm.
That's totally fine. And then like the next time you join the meeting, you could then like turn your camera on, for example. So that's kind of like taking it one step at a time, as opposed to like immediately turning your camera on and like
Hmm.
talking all the time,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
because like that's way more scary, I think. But that's, I think, a good way to get started. And then say, for example, you just join the meeting, you didn't turn your camera on, you just kind of like remember some of the people here and there, what they mentioned in a breakout room. You could then follow them on social media. You could either DM them privately or like tweet or something at them, like publicly, just saying, oh, hey, like, love talking to you at iOS Dev Happy Hour, or just
Hmm.
DM them being like, oh, I'm really interested in your project. I really liked how you explained something. And then that can either just start and spark like a conversation between people of just like getting to know somebody and like taking sort of baby steps as opposed to like full blast going like and talking like
Hmm.
immediately in your very first time being there. It's you can take it like step by step, and that's totally fine. And we're like open to people who do want to talk and people who kind of just want to sit in the background and just like absorb the meeting itself, because it's like it is 100 people. It is kind of overwhelming from the first time you like everyone loads into the meeting at once.
Yeah, especially for that kind of people that are pretty. So some of them are pretty strong engineers, or so they can be intimidating. But I like
Mm-hmm.
that the approach is like, don't go with everything at the first session. Maybe if you need your time, your space, yeah, you can just put in your microphone off and camera. But
Mm-hmm.
over time, you can do the steps. So yeah, I pretty
Mm-hmm.
love that way of doing things. So awesome. So we will leave the links if they want to join to iOS Dev Happy Hour. Is that okay?
Yeah. Yeah. It's as well too. It's just iosdevhappyhour.com
Hmm.
is the URL to go to as well. And then that has a link to all the different social medias we have for that account as well.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, we'll put them in the podcast notes for sure too.
Yeah, awesome, great. So moving on, because we are running out of time a little bit. I wanted to talk to you about two other projects that you are uh, hosting or managing. I because I mean you are been in a lot of things, right? So I had to pick just a few. Um, I saw last October you were developing a project for car maintenance, and you were
Mm-hmm.
in like an hackathon.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I have a few questions there. I mean, first off, is how did you get this idea, and second, how easy or hard is to handle this is collaboration, because I saw that you started and then everyone I mean more people become active in the community, creating pull requests or so. And could you explain us a little bit the background of this project?
Yeah, so it was the hackathon is called Hacktoberfest. So it's kind of off of like Oktoberfest, kind of themed. So it happens the month of October. The whole goal of the entire thing, so it's across programming languages. It's not just an iOS thing, it's just pretty much anybody.
Hmm.
The whole goal is for people to contribute to an open source project. So for a lot of other things, it's like we use open source like software everywhere. Like a lot of the different Swift packages we all use, they're all open source, like SwiftLint, um, TCA, like all of that is open source. So what I did was make a repository for people to contribute to. And I really wanted to make it for beginners getting into iOS development or beginners like wanting to contribute for the very first time. Because if you're like me, when I started learning on my own, you learn iOS development, but you don't ever actually learn collaborating with other people. But then when you think about it, when you get into a job, that is exactly what you do is you collaborate with other people on a job and other developers. So that aspect is kind of missing when you're like self-learning. So I wanted to make a repository where beginners and pretty much people of any level can get involved in open source, but also just get involved and like work on a project with other developers. So as any good developer, how I got this idea was I stole it. um,
Hmm.
so this idea came from my friend Jay. He started making this and actually live streams on YouTube and Twitch as well under Hey J Codes. And so he started this whole project, had called it My Wheels, I think, and it was all about like car maintenance. He had like designed most of the UI and everything, and he ended up like dropping off that project a little bit instead of working on something else. And so when October came around, I was like, hey, can I take this project? Are you still working on it? Can I just like take your idea? And he was fine with it. So basically, I just called it basic car maintenance because I couldn't think of anything else. And I'm like, I want it to be a car maintenance app for people who kind of like don't like cars and don't know a ton about cars, which
Hmm.
is like somebody who I am. And I don't know. I would say that's probably the average car driver out of like other people who are super into cars.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
so for me, that was kind of like what I wanted to do with the app, was somebody who's like not terribly technical with cars, but it's kind of just like tracking your different maintenance, because when you go to sell your car, you have to know what happened to your car throughout the ownership.
Yeah.
And that was something like when I was going to sell my car, they were like, "Have you ever gotten into a crash?" And I'm like, I hit a deer one time. I don't know when that was." And like
What
how
is a
much it
crash?
cost and all sorts of stuff.
A
Yeah,
crash
so
in iOS? Just kidding.
so yeah, we had to like keep track of that kind of stuff. But basically, I asked him, I'm like, "Hey, can I steal your idea?" And he was like, "Yeah, that's totally fine." He gave me all the code for everything of what he had done that to that point and all the UI designs. I took some of that, adapted it. But like that's sort of where the project kind of came from. Was I wanted to make an app that other people could contribute to, where it's mainly for beginners to contribute to. So that kind of meant,
Hmm.
as a maintainer, I wanted to have really good documentation. So like a very good README where you can like follow it step by step. This is how you open the project, how you add the like secrets file, and for that I ended up using Firebase also on the back end too for like all the database kind of stuff basically. But that's sort of where like the whole project came from, and then like more into how I've maintained it was, it was kind of very chaotic. I had participated in Hacktoberfest previously, so for the past 2 years, I had a project called Brain Marks that actually started out of an actual like hackathon, like a
Hmm.
weekend hackathon that I met like did online with a couple other people. We started a project and then I open sourced it and made it for like the next 2 years over Hacktoberfest. For those 2 years, I had 20 people contribute to it over 2 years. So this brand new project that like started with just me, within 3 days, I had 10 people contribute to this.
Nice.
So the scale of like what was happening was like way more than I was expecting. So like three
I saw the
days there were
chart
10 people. Yeah, it just, yeah,
going up
I added a little
exponentially.
star chart. Yeah, and it just kept going up and up. And it was funny. I could tell like the spikes for some things were just when I mentioned it on social media, because I mentioned it really early. So it's the whole hackathon was in October. I started mentioning it and was working on it in August because I was gone, like away from home all of September. So I was like trying to finish the basis of the project, and I tried to make a very, very minimal 1.0 for everybody to build off of, because you can work on projects where everybody is like brand new and you're doing like, here is the 1.0, every brand new
Hmm.
feature. But I think for beginners and just kind of in any other project in general, it's really hard when you're contributing like on top of something that's like a hello world project, because like everybody's adding new files, like every kind of, you don't have any conventions for how everything's going to work. So I think that's like very difficult. So I tried to make a super minimal MVP that people then could start contributing on top of that, so
Hmm.
that I think makes it easier. So like you at least, the app at least does something, so it's not just the hello world when you run it for the very first time.
Hmm.
So when I went to go into Oktoberfest, I made a bunch of new issues. Like I made like 20 issues, and they were all taken in like 2 days, and it was just, that was absolutely wild. So then I had to
Wow.
keep writing more issues. But what I did was when I started, I like actively didn't do error handling when I made that v1.0. So like I would just have try question mark, and that was it. So then I would make an issue that says handle this error, because this can totally throw an error. Make like the do catch statement and handle what would happen if this statement threw an error. And
Hmm.
that is a very good scoped issue for any kind of beginner to get into a project at first, because first you can see what's supposed to happen, and then also, okay, if this threw an error, figuring out how do you write the do catch, how do you handle the error, what are you catching, are you showing it to the user? Like all of those things are very specific, and what's really good about it for a Hacktoberfest project too is it's all very scoped as well. So like you're only touching that one small piece of code, and I wasn't making any dramatic features where somebody would end up changing like every single
Hmm.
file, because if you have a lot of people contributing to a code base, that's just like merge conflicts everywhere.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow.
So
So, no, no, go ahead.
nope, that was it.
Okay. Yeah, I'm seeing the chart. Actually, in post production, I will add more context about this project. But yeah, it looks like a lot of work in just a short period of time, and I'm glad to see that how reactive the community is, or proactive, I will say, to this kind of thing. So when you are just doing something great, um, or you want to share, hey, I'm doing an app, and more people wanted to help, right, and learn at
Mm-hmm.
the same time. Because I think it, if someone is hearing and they wanted to actually learn something, is by doing by doing things.
Yes.
Okay, and one of the things is, okay, putting the hands on a real app, not just a tutorial app, a real app. And one of
Mm-hmm.
those is like collaborating with people in things, because who knows, maybe later this will be in one of the top 5 of a app store. Who knows? By the way, it is already published or not yet?
I'm working on it. So
Okay. Okay.
the last thing I have to do is I'm implementing monetization within it. So adding a
Mm,
paywall and
okay.
all the in-app purchase kind of stuff. So that is like it's kind of something only I can sort of do because I have access to like the secrets and everything, and then I'll
Hmm.
have to figure out how it's gonna work with like it all being open source. But I am working on publishing it. The goal was to do that last weekend. Actually, the goal was to do that by the end of 2023, and then that didn't happen. So then the
Hmm.
goal was to do it the first week of January, and then that didn't happen. So the goal was to do it last weekend, which still didn't happen. So the new goal now is probably this weekend or end of January. But yeah, it's my big thing is I do really want to get this app published because it is something that like somebody can totally write on their resume of, hey, I contributed to this project, this
Yeah.
was the issue that I worked on. And I have in the app like a contributors list, so you can see like who's contributed to this project, tap on
Hmm.
that row, and then you see a list of all the GitHub contributors because it just pulls from the public like GitHub API.
Hmm.
So like you can actually end up seeing once I finally publish it is like here is the list of everybody who's contributed to the app, and then if you're one of them you can end up like showing that in like an actual interview, I mean like,
Hmm.
look, this is my name, like this is my GitHub account,
Yeah.
and be like, this is the feature that I contributed in this app, which I think is really like fun to really like tangibly finally see here is something that I did. Because like iOS development, it's something where we do have to pay $100 a year to have an app on the App Store. And if
Hmm.
you're not able to do that, it's like you can then work on this project and then end up having part of your like part of the work that you've done be inside of a real app as well that's like on the App Store too.
Hmm. Yeah, that's great also, to hear that you can actually have a proof of, hey, I'm doing something in real life. I'm contributing and also learning from others. When I'm hiring people in my job, I'm always trying to see, okay, how is your contribution with others? And when I'm seeing people that are actually contributing, collaborating in GitHub, in in large projects, it's like, okay, so you tell me more, and then yeah, you clearly can differentiate people from people that doesn't uh, collaborate
Mm-hmm.
at all, and experience that the collaboration uh, provides you once you start doing it. And you don't have to like, because most people think that they need to do the greatest collaboration of all the time to actually worth the work. No, I mean, maybe a typo, fixing a typo in a documentation could be enough for you just to pair it there. And then you can,
Mm-hmm.
like you said, step by step escalate that until at some point that you're actually contributing with more things like testing or actual features of that. So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that I
Yeah.
really like that.
Yeah, that really shows, especially I would say like the Git aspect and the collaboration with it. Because yeah, when you're on your own, okay, you're like committing to a repo, you may be doing some branching, and
Hmm.
that's kind of it. But it's once you start collaborating with somebody else, you then have to also figure out how to write a pull request, which is
Yeah.
something you will learn at your first job. But when you're just working on your own, you don't write pull requests. Like you just write, I did it, or something.
Yeah.
Like you don't have to really write pull requests.
Hmm.
So like being able to really collaborate in that aspect is something that I really wanted people to get out of this repo. Whereas like just learning on your own, like you don't get. And so because I know I was wanting like beginners to contribute to this. It's like if they make a mistake, that's totally fine. I'll just like point out, hey, can we write this differently on how we did this, or can you? I prefer like a certain style on something, and like I'll go through that. So then now they're going through the whole pull request. The PR review as well too, which now we're going back and forth on something
Hmm.
too, and that's again something you don't do on your own. So that's what I really wanted people to get out of this repo was actually like practical experience. Like this is literally what you would do at a job
Yeah.
for like iOS development, and I think that gives you just a good experience to then take forward and like be able to tell on your resume or say in an interview, oh yeah, I worked on a repo where I had to go through this whole process. Whereas if somebody was only learning on their own, like even if they publish an app, which is great, but if they only did something all on their own, they don't have that context of having to work with other people, having to solve merge conflicts with other people. Like you just don't get that unless you actually work on a project with other people.
You need to learn. I mean, if you actually collaborate and you learn how to solve merge conflicts in a real project, you're ready for your life.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And I remember in a previous job, long time ago, for interns, one of the phases that they wanted to do is that they had to do is are this stage when they needed to find a way to collaborate in an open source project. Good luck with that. Any source project,
Hmm.
but they had to find something uh, big enough to collaborate, and it was is harder, way harder than it sounds, because when you don't
Hmm.
have experience, you don't know where is it, right, or how to
Yeah.
start. But they realized that, oh, this is not too hard than unexpected, because there are some projects have documentation or issues that you can just grab and then just
Hmm.
contribute to the community. And then, oh, okay, I saw people collaborating to Realm, collaborating to other Node.js frameworks like Cypress, etc. And they learn a lot. And I'm really I really had that opportunity when I started my career. But when I saw that, it was like, oh yeah, that's true. Those guys that are just starting are already collaborating in open source project. And I don't have anything in my uh, resume yet. And I learned that from that, and I tried to do, you know, some experiments. And that's that's great. I mean, thanks for providing that opportunity to others to also learn.
Hmm.
Awesome. So okay, I think I have just two questions uh, to end in this podcast. Um, One is, well, not sure if it's a question, but it's more. I would like to know more about Swift over coffee.
Ooh, yes.
So,
So for anybody who doesn't know, yeah, Swift Over Coffee is a podcast with Paul Hudson. We are both the co hosts of that podcast. So we are doing season three because it's all been in seasons with different hosts. So the first season was Sean Allen, I believe, and then Erica Sadun, which I believe I'm pronouncing her name correctly.
mhm,
Um, yeah, it's Erica Sadun, and then now it's me as the third like season's co-host.
mhm,
Um, and then yeah, we are just doing this is the first time I've actually been on a podcast like as one of the hosts of the podcast. So it's been really fun, and yeah, we just are chatting about what's happening in Swift world, and different topics on like yeah, one of them was how to get started in open source work, how to contribute to the community, like writing blog posts or YouTube videos, and like how you get started doing any of that kind of stuff.
mhm.
But yeah, it's been fun of just like chatting. It's kind of the vibe we have of just like chatting with another person about Swift and iOS development.
Nice. So, and when did you run this? So, I mean, because you're collaborating with Paul Husson, which is one of the greatest contributors, or I don't know when he started, but I'm calling myself, calling her, calling him, sorry, like the father of the iOS contributors in some way,
Yeah.
because he started like, I mean, um, I'm not sure, but maybe he's the person with most followers in iOS uh, contributors or content creators. So, and you're working with such a great person. And by the way, if Paul
Mhm.
is listening this podcast, I send my hello to him. Um, but what I'm hearing from you in this conversation is that you, I don't know how you are, um, you have, had the opportunity to collaborate with other people, or taking the work from others and become in and bring it to something um, that actually works. For example, your YouTube channel, the car maintenance project, and now you're working with Paul. But um, I don't know, how how do you manage that? I'm curious. So.
I how did I get? Yeah, it was kind of just all got started just because I started posting on social media of like what I'm working on basically, and it kind
Mhm,
of just grew from there. Of like I liked talking to other people about iOS development because for a long time it was that's what I want to do is I want to be an iOS developer. So what? How did I do that? It's I just started talking to other iOS developers because like you can't do something or like know how to do something like that you've never done before. You're
mhm,
just, you're always just like floundering and you just don't know where to start. So what I did was like just posting about what I'm trying to work on, and then from there you naturally on social media start talking to other people who are doing that thing, and
mhm,
then asking them questions about like how do you get started? How do you do this? Like what should I learn? Those like kind of questions. So it's kind of that. And then also, I'm just on my phone 24/7. Like my screen time is like 12 hours a day or something like that because I'm always on my phone. But yeah, I just started talking to everybody and really just because I'm also extroverted, if people can't tell as well, and I've said it, is that like I just like talking to other people about everything. So it's just being able to chat with others about like in depth about iOS development and like something super technical, me being like, how do I convert a SQLite database to like Firebase or to my own custom database, like something super technical like that, like just ask on social media, see what people say,
mhm.
or just like something really basic of the debate that we're all still having of should I learn Swift UI or UI kit. It's just kind of like I just kind of talked on social media a lot, and then it's just naturally grown into me wanting to know more and talk to other people, and then now going and like giving conference talks, like all over the world and everything, and it's kind of just like how my career kind of bloomed from there.
Do you have any conference coming up?
I'm going to be going to Deep Dish Swift that's coming up. I
Nice.
haven't actually um, I've applied to a couple of conferences to speak at yet, but I think a lot of them are still like the later ones in the year are like still being announced. So there's only a couple, um, have because it's always the debate of do you have the conference before Dub Dub or after Dub Dub? So and you can have like topics about like whatever Apple's like about to announce. Um,
Mm,
so I think all
got
the
it.
ones before Dub Dub, if I have all kind of been announced, and I'm only going to Deep Dish and possibly another. We'll see. Um, but like I've applied to a couple of them here and there, but then I'm looking at going to try to apply to like speak at several more this year as well.
Okay. Wow. I'm also applied to Deep Dish, by the way, and I'm waiting for a response. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I'm not sure yet if I was rejected or so, but but yeah, I'm glad that people like you are uh, actively also looking for conferences and speaking in outside of the world. Uh, I have a question. So if how do you manage that too? For example, how do you prepare? How many months in advance you think about the content that you want to present to others? Because it's I don't know. To me, it's quite complicated sometimes to decide. Okay, what kind of topic will be interesting for some others, and maybe I just underestimating the topic. And but I don't know how to measure that. How your experience? How is
Oh,
that?
yeah. That's the thing I'm kind of like struggling with right now is like figuring out what to talk about
Mm,
because I don't know, like some things like super in depth. Like I don't know how all the macros work super in depth, but like you've done a whole video on that. So
yeah.
like that could be a great conference talk. But like stuff like that, it can either be something super technical that you talk about or like not even super technical, but like still on a technical aspect and kind of figuring that out, or you could do something non-technical like at Deep Dish Swift last year. Via Fairchild did a whole talk on mentoring, and I think like she had
Mm,
great execution. Like it was a great talk, but it was non-technical, as in like
hmm
it was all about like mentoring and like being mentored, and then also like how to be a mentor.
hmm
Um,
Nice.
and then like that's a great talk as well. So it's kind of just like figuring out what you want to talk about, and that's something that I'm still kind of trying to figure out what I want to do because right now everybody's talking about the Apple Vision Pro and all the topics around
Okay.
that. But like I've done a little bit with that, like not super super in depth yet. So I feel like I can't talk on that topic like as much. Like I can regurgitate something that's like from a keynote of like this is what a space is, this is what like a volume is,
Hmm.
like that kind of stuff. But I feel like people are kind of looking for something either slightly more in depth or somebody who, once you really get into that and like start debugging more, you kind of then find out like the all the quirks that the platform has right now, just because it is also brand new.
Hmm.
So I don't have an answer kind of to that question, just because I'm trying to figure it out on my own as well. But it's sort of figuring out, I don't know, just like, do you want to do a technical talk or a non-technical talk,
That's a first
or
question. Yeah.
yeah, and then kind of from there, once you do have something to talk about, then being able to like expand on it and actually like build it into a full presentation. So like the very first thing I did was actually like a work presentation. I talked about Git and GitHub and just like a
Hmm.
super basic intro. What is Git? What is GitHub? We actually used that work at that time, GitLab, and what's the difference? And then also like I did a full like live demo and I solved like a merge conflict on screen, which is scary but also was kind of fun. And that's where I like got into sort of like speaking because I actually like had a blast with it. Where I was like super surprised because like throughout all of high school and college, like I hated public speaking, and then I tried to like speak on a stage because I was like, okay, I want to like try to get out of my comfort zone. I'm gonna give a talk to like 100 people, and I did, and actually it went really well, and I had like a blast doing it. So then that's where I sort of got into speaking more. But like, yeah, now I'm at the point too. I'm just like, I don't know what to talk about, but so I don't have a big answer, but it's still kind of, I don't know. It's kind of just figuring out what do you want to talk about, but also like what's current and what's happening.
Hmm. Yeah. And how do you prepare for that, for talking to 100 people, for example? uh do you plan it like, I don't know, a couple of weeks of training yourself or so, or do you feel comfortable, or I don't know, how has been your experience with
I'm
public
not sure
speaking?
the time frame. It's like a couple weeks, couple like sometimes it can be months depending on what you're actually talking about, like how technical it is.
Hmm.
A lot of the talks I've given have I mean a kind of a course, but it's all been on topics I of course already know. So because of that, it's like I already kind of know generally what I want to talk about, and I'm somebody who when I give a presentation, it will be different every time I give it because I don't use a script or anything. So I don't
Okay.
say things like word for word because for me, like when I'm at a conference, then like reading something word for word, I would get caught up in reading it more so than like actually speaking it out loud.
Hmm.
So what
Yeah.
I do is like I will write bullet points on what I want to talk about, and then I can make sure like when I actually give the talk, I cover those
Hmm.
bullet points.
Okay.
Is sort of like how I do public speaking. So it's like I know what I'm talking about, I know the topic, this is what I want to cover, and then every time I give it, it will be like it will sound different um, because I don't follow like any very specific script or anything.
Okay. No, I mean, it's, for some people, including myself, is challenging, right? So
Mm-hmm.
sometimes to speak with others, or especially if, I mean, you're in your comfort zone, you are can manage a number of people, but then when you are in a larger audience, especially maybe if it's your first time speaking in a conference, um, it can be tricky. I will say it. I
Mm-hmm.
remember my first actual conference speaking was in Spain in 2021, giving a workshop for async await and all the Swift concurrency. A brief introduction to that, and yeah, I remember, like, talking a lot, and also my throat at that time was like,
Oh no.
rushing really bad. So hurting really bad, sorry. And yeah, I made it, but at the same time it was like, okay, this was a great experience to me to learn, to, I don't know, also budgeting my time, because sometimes you
Mm-hmm.
expect that your time will be enough, but it turns out now you have pauses, you have questions or things that happens in the middle, and then you need to drive all of that to make it, to make a good presentation, and not losing the attention from your audience. But yeah, I'm glad to see, I hope to see you in one of those conferences, if I have the opportunity to attend. Yeah, I have something really cool to share, hope so.
Yes, yes, we'll have to look at the conference schedule and
Yeah,
see
yeah, yeah.
which ones are we both going to for
this,
sure.
this, yeah, I think this year will be really really busy. in terms of Vision Pro. And speak to that.
Yes.
Oh, sorry, you want to say
No,
something?
go ahead.
I actually have a question. Maybe it's tricky, maybe not. You tell me. Uh, will you buy the Apple Vision Pro? And do you think it's expensive? It's worth the price? What do you think?
Ooh, it's kind of like, to put it the price in perspective, like yes, it's expensive for sure, but
Mm,
it's like if you were to go buy a new MacBook, kind of expensive.
hmm.
Um, is the way I like to think about it. I'm not sure if it would fit in my workflow of being able to like meet that price of a MacBook. Like I spent a lot on the current Mac that I have, like maxed out like the M1 Max, like pretty much almost all the specs.
Yeah.
Um, and that was completely worth it to me because I use this thing every single day. So like I get my use out of having that kind of speed and it saves time and everything. I'm not sure yet with the Vision Pro if it would be worth the price at the moment. Um, but I haven't decided if I'll get it. It's I keep going back and forth on it, but it's I have gone to the labs and tried it, so I do know like how it works and how it feels and like I've been able to develop on it. So it's a solid maybe, possibly yes, but solid maybe.
I hadn't had the chance to try it, but do you think it's cool? I mean, what do you feel when you put it in your head?
Ooh, cuz that's the thing that's very Apple. But we of course can't talk about most of how it works. So it's I've liked it and I'm interested. It's kind of like the watch and like I don't know the iPhone sort of. It's like the apps on the platform are what make the device because without all the apps that all of us, all lovely developers, all the apps that we make, without those, the device like is kind of basic. Like
Hmm.
it's like a computer. Like I
Yeah.
mean, you can like write in a text file, play chess or something, but like without all the different applications on it, like you don't have as much fun and computers don't suck your time like 12 hours a day.
Hmm.
So I think the apps that developers will end up making for the platform, I think can really make it. I think the thing that's still super weird and like funky about the Vision Pro is just it's a device that's on your head, which is
Yeah.
such a different thing that us as a society, we are just not like uh not ready for or like maybe we're ready for it but we're not it's not common just yet.
Yeah.
Like when somebody wears something on their head it's very noticeable. It's like when you have glasses it's such a different thing than somebody who doesn't have glasses. You have then different things, yeah, like just having glasses then with like having to wear a mask in public, then your
Hmm.
glasses all fog up. It's like just a whole different thing you have to do and uh like stuff that you have to like figure out as compared to people who don't have glasses. Or when it's cold outside now, you walk into from outside into inside and you can't see for a whole 20 seconds because of all the condensation. Like it's a whole
Yeah.
different thing just to have something on your head and on your face. So I'm interested to see like how that is just going to play out. Like I think it still looks ridiculous. Like it's hilarious. If I saw somebody at a coffee shop with this thing, I'm just like like I'm sorry I'll laugh at you, but I may also be there as well.
I am totally expecting people in the Bay Area and San Francisco wearing those things and walking, and having,
Oh my gosh.
reading the news and seeing, oh, a man or a person had an accident because he was wearing the new Apple Vision Pro, blah blah blah, politics and everything. Yeah, I'm just imagining that. So yeah, definitely that will be a show.
Yeah, it's
For most
solid
of us.
maybe, leaning towards yes, but mainly because I don't know, I'm just interested in it as a developer because like we do iOS apps or Mac OS or tvOS and like Watch and
Mhm.
everything. And those are all just been very Apple sort of platforms, but with the Vision Pro, you can now use Unity in it and like you can do way more intense like gaming kind of stuff. So it really opens the world to like what you can kind of develop on it and like it broadens us like as in like okay we could break out of our little Swift bubble and possibly like get into C# and Unity and everything and
Mhm.
like game development is a whole dramatic different thing than just making an iOS app that just uses like Swift UI. So kind of say I'm interested just really more as like a developer aspect, like what you can do with it and like what you can make with it, and I
Mm.
think that will be super super cool to see like what people have done with it, as opposed to like just a pure consumer aspect. I don't know. I just like don't see it. Like I do want to use it on a plane. That sounds awesome. Of just like watching a gigantic movie on a plane. That sounds great. But like yeah, it's I would want to get one mainly as a developer aspect of this is super cool, and like the different things that you can do, and like now that I've done some Vision Pro, getting into reality kit and like all the 3D aspects stuff that you can do, and that's just like absolutely wild, and like so much more to learn than just making a Swift app on
Hmm.
like an iPhone.
Yeah, I think at this point is like a proof of concept in some way,
Mm-hmm.
because Apple sometimes is doing that. When they introduce a new product, they call it the best product ever, but it turns out sometimes they need some real test, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
that happened to any product, not just Apple. But for example, with Swift UI 1.0 sucks. Swift Data 1.0 it sucks, and so on and so
Yeah.
on. Swift itself. So now this product is like, we'll see that. We'll see the battery, because I'm seeing the 2 hours is too.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's very optimistic, but let's see. It's something that over time, Apple is changing the industry to see. Okay, maybe we see this product like something exotic, or maybe not useful for many of our daily work, but it turns
Mm-hmm.
out maybe in 5 years I could change the entire world and say, okay, maybe
Mm-hmm.
thanks to Apple, we brought the VR systems to everywhere, to everyone. Well, some way, because it's too expensive, okay, for
Mm-hmm.
most people, that they don't want. They just need some social media and reading docs. So, right. So I don't think that will worth the price at all. Um, but let's see. I mean, at least in terms of the technology, is really it's opening a new world. It's something
Mm-hmm.
that maybe as iOS developers we haven't explored, because we are just really located to the Swift UI things, or UI kit, or the way we make lists, or etc. But now it's like we are working in that 3D environment. We need to learn shapes. We need to learn maps. And all those things require another spectrum of knowledge, right?
Mm-hmm.
Actually, spoiler, that's one of the things I wanted to talk.
Ooh.
It's not Vision Pro, but it's something that will help you to Vision Pro and 3D objects. So, but the thing is, yeah, we need to explore that, and there will people that will pay for that beta testing.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry for saying that. um,
Yeah, I'm interested to see just what really happens with it and how it gets adapted, because when you think back to the iPhone getting announced, which it's you almost can't compare them because the times were just so different with electronics too. So it's
yeah.
like the iPhone getting announced, it didn't make it really until like a couple years later. Like it wasn't
Hmm.
everybody had an iPhone until like a little bit later, because again it was also expensive then too.
Yeah.
But then like the Apple Watch got announced, and it wasn't like it was kind of, I would say like generally it was big. Like I kind of almost can't remember because I didn't get a watch at the beginning and I wasn't
Hmm.
into like tech as much. But like it was a big thing, and then like there's a whole now niche, like there's a whole market for like wearables for fitness and everything. But like
Hmm.
the VR AR space and now spatial computing is making its own space, and seeing
Yeah.
sort of how it gets adapted by people is what I'm actually kind of just interested to see, because that's why
Hmm.
I don't like bet on things, because I'm like, I don't know if it's going to make it or not. This could be the biggest flop that Apple ever has. If it is, that's kind of funny, but like who knows.
Exactly. It's you are, gambling in some way. I don't know. It's a device that is invading your personal space in some way, right? But I don't
Yeah.
know. Maybe because I don't know, too attached to the idea that I have a cell phone. But maybe a few years ago, it was like having this thing in your hand is also invading your personal space. I mean, depending
Hmm.
how you want to see it. But anyway, I think, yeah, I'm glad that we are in this area. We can explore it, and
Hmm.
yeah, who knows? Maybe in a few years, or in a coming episode, you, Michaela, you will come. We'll talk about that again, and we'll say, oh, okay,
Yes.
we were
We
like,
were all wrong.
you were all wrong. Yeah, yeah, this changed the
We're all
world.
wrong,
What
we're
a,
all right.
yeah, 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 getting trolls about. Just kidding. So. Yeah, yeah. Who knows? Let's see. Let's see. This year definitely will be awesome. In terms of new technology, we'll see the WWDC 2024. If we can uh, reach everyone there. So, but yeah, we have a lot of things to discuss uh, in this podcast, but unfortunately, we are running out of time now. So, and I'm just wanted to say, Michaela, thank you very much for your time uh, on this podcast. I know you are busy, and I totally respect all the time in this conversation. I feel that I know you more. I feel like like you, that I feel that you are like an engineer, an iOS dev for more time than just 2019, and I feel like I know you since a lot of times ago. So thanks for for your time, and I don't know if you have any words for the community or something. I would like to give you some space.
Yeah, thanks again for having me as the first guest on the podcast. Everybody can follow me all on social media, like just Michaela, just go to michaelacaron.com/links. So that'll be, yeah, in the show notes as well. And then that has a
Hmm.
link to all the social medias because there's just, yeah, too many.
Yeah.
So you can like go to that one page and then that will take you to whichever social media you prefer to follow me. And for everybody who I would say wants to get into like content creation or really just learn iOS development or learn something new, you don't know unless you try. So just start because you're still ahead of somebody who decided to never try because they didn't think they could. So that's what I would say to everybody is go ahead, just do something. If it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. But it's like conference talks. It's everybody is rooting for you to succeed. Nobody wants to see anybody on a conference like giving a talk being super nervous and being like super upset. Like nobody wants that for you. Everybody wants to see you succeed. So everybody is rooting for you here. I'm rooting for you. My DMs are open if anybody wants to talk about conference talks or iOS dev or they have a question. Anybody is welcome to DM me. Don't just say hi, but actually, yeah,
That
DM
was
me.
it.
But yeah, it's everybody wants to see you succeed, and so just get started doing something. If you fail, you fail. You learn something, and just keep on going.
Awesome. Thank you, Michaela, for your time. And thanks everyone to see this episode of Sif and Tip Podcast. Remember, all the links of my Michaela's social medias and my social medias will be in the description. And if you are also looking at this, here it's my uh, main account in Twitter, linking, and YouTube, of course, Swift and Tips. So thanks one more time, everyone, for being here. And remember, uh, coming up, we'll have more guests like Michaela. And Michaela, definitely you will, if you want, you can be here in a coming up time. So thank you again. And everyone, have a great day.
Thank you. See ya.